Today, I'm going to take you through the process of making a 1-minute video. So about 2 months ago, one of my clients, the Life Coach School, had a video series that they were working on called The Last Best Year. And we brainstormed and came up with several different ideas. And I decided I wanted to make a video that I felt would be really powerful and would speak to the concepts of what they were trying to do. And so I brainstormed some ideas and I started writing. Now, you may or may not know that I have a minor in creative writing. So I got my degree in broadcasting and in video and television production, but I didn't really like the news aspect of it. And so I did creative writing as my minor. So as part of that, I had to take a lot of writing classes, a lot of poetry classes, nonfiction, fiction. I even had to do some technical writing, which wasn't my favorite. But as part of that, I remember thinking about some of my writing classes. And so I went back and I decided to write. Now, one of the things that they talk about in writing is to show, not to tell. And this is especially powerful when it comes to video. So I thought through the process of this video, and every single line that I came up with, I thought of how the words I was saying, the verbiage, was going to illustrate the images that I was seeing. Now, I sometimes will go and pick out images first, but I wrote this script very first, and then I went back and I found images that matched it. Now, I decided to do something a little unique with this video. I made it all rhyme. And when I did this, I thought this might come across as a little bit cheesy, especially as I was writing it. I kept scratching out different words and rewriting words and trying different phrases because some of the time it didn't feel right, it didn't fit right. And some of the words felt really good. And so I sat there and thought through all the different parts and pieces of these different words and how they would appear visually and also how they sounded. Now, in my process, one of the things that I did is I recorded myself doing the voiceover. And so before I got to that point, I decided as I was writing this video, as I was writing the verbiage, I would read it out loud. So I'm going to read part of it for you. So it goes like this. What could you do in a year? Climb Mount Everest, use a headrest, press some weight, get a date, perfect your look, learn to cook, start a business, combat stiffness, make some money, become funny. What could you do in 1 year if it was your last best year? So I'm going to pause for just a second and go back to this. So if you listen to the words, what could you do in a year? Climb Mount Everest, use a headrest. I purposely thought, okay, what is very powerful? Visually, what do I want to tell? What do I want to see? And I thought, Mount Everest. An average person who has not done a lot of mountain climbing looks at Mount Everest and thinks, that is huge. That is one large task. But is it doable? Absolutely. And maybe you could do that in a year. But I also wanted to combat that with, I wanted to have on the opposite side something that's very attainable. Now, using a headrest, that could have been a couple of different things. It could have just been somebody lounging by the pool. But I really wanted this whole video to have a lot of action, a lot of forward momentum and feeling. Now, why am I telling you all this? I think when we think about what ways that we can market to people, ways that we can communicate with people, we want to think about the emotions that they have. Video is a very powerful, emotive experience. It emotes feelings in lots of different ways. Sometimes it's through the visuals, sometimes it's through the auditory, through the words, sometimes it's through the music. When we think about what we want to create, we really want to create an experience. That is what video does. And that is really what we're trying to do with coaching. I did a live stream a few months ago. I think it was probably in October or November. And one of the speakers was talking about this. He was talking about the different levels of purchasing. And he talked about how the top level, the level that we really want to get to, and I talked about this on my social media a little while ago as well, but the top level that we want to get to, that we want to be at, is we want to be selling emotion. We want to be selling an experience, because that is where it actually changes people's lives. Yes, somebody can buy a product. You can buy AirPods. Those will be a great product, right? But if you're selling it, when you're selling AirPods, you're not just selling, you can hear good sound. You want to sell an experience. If you look at Apple computers, that is what they're really good at doing. They invoke emotion into their videos because they want it to be an experience. And that's really what we want to have with our clients. We want them to have an experience that's going to change their lives. So why wouldn't we do that from the get-go? Why would we just have the experience to change their lives just on the coaching aspect? Why wouldn't we want to change their lives from the very moment that they meet us, from our marketing pieces, from our offering of our free content? Every single one of these steps should be something that could feel like it's changing their lives. And that's why I wanted to share this video with you, how I came about making this video, because I want to evoke the emotions and the way that I was trying to offer just a hint of an experience of life being changed. So the next line was press some weight to get a date. Now, both of those could feel very simple. I actually downloaded, I went through the process of trying to figure out, okay, what do I want this to sound like? Instead of just use a headrest, somebody might be like, oh, they're getting on an airplane. I guess that's kind of using a headrest, but I wanted to evoke the emotion of going somewhere. And so I had that same noise, the bing, ladies and gentlemen, this is your captain speaking. And I had the sound of the airplane. Anybody who's been on an airplane recognizes that little bing and the captain saying something. It is an emotional experience. For some people, it's a highly emotive experience where they're very nervous. And for some people, it's a really exciting moment where they're getting ready to go someplace. So I wanted to evoke those same emotions inside of that video. Perfect your look. Learn to cook. Now, again, right here on the learn to cook, that might be just some simple experience, but I really was trying to think, okay, what kind of emotion do I want to evoke here? And I thought of a mother and a child learning to cook together. I thought of baking cookies and that smell of baking cookies. I wanted these things to evoke emotions inside of people. Now, sometimes they might be really fast and they might go by really fast, and so you might not get the emotion, and that's okay. But some people will be paying attention to that. Some of these things just blend into the background, but I really want to show you the strategic way that I thought through all of these elements. The next lines: start a business, combat stiffness. I thought about somebody doing yoga. Or an older person maybe, or a younger person. But I was thinking, I'm 45 and I'm getting to the point where my back is starting to get really stiff. And so I've been doing some yoga, and I think about like that combating stiffness, how good it feels to stretch and to combat that stiffness. Make some money, become funny. Now that line, I again added in a little bit of sound effects. I added some laughter, and it could be a couple different ways. I downloaded several different clips. I downloaded clips where it looks like you're doing stand-up comedy, or also where it could just be that you're just talking to your friends, that you're just, learning to tell jokes in a very funny way. I wanted to kind of show multiple realms of these different ideas. So these are some of the other thoughts. Stop over drinking, wishful thinking and shrinking. Start inking, linking, and rethinking. Start doing, pursuing, renewing, and accruing. What if you could make this year one to remember? So now you see that I've gotten through the rest of that poem, and you see that in those first 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 lines, they were 2 lines each, and they rhymed every other. And then once I got to the next 3 lines, I did 3 lines, and I did drinking, thinking, shrinking, start inking, linking, and rethinking, start doing, pursuing, renewing, and accruing. At that point, I wanted to break the pattern that we'd already had. So we had a pattern of 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2. And then we had a pattern of 3, 3, 3, and I wanted to break that pattern. So this is something that you see in music, you see this in comedy, you see this in just really good timing. We want to establish a pattern, and then we want to break that pattern. And part of the reason why we do that is because the brain gets used to the pattern. We establish a pattern and we're like, okay, this is how it's happening. Okay, da-dun, 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 da-dun. And so we get used to that. And then if we break that pattern, it becomes, I don't know if shocking is the right word, but it becomes interesting again. We want to develop that pattern, and then we want to break the pattern in a way that is going to make it interesting. Because what we want to do is we want people to keep watching the video. We don't want them to click off. We want them to keep watching the video all the way through. So we want to keep their attention, and we want to keep adjusting and making it interesting and changing it up a little bit. So then at that point, I basically have finished the poem. Almost all of those clips up to that point were all stock footage. I specifically chose a stock library that I really like. It's called FilmPack, and they use a lot of filmaic, story-oriented videos. There are a couple of other ones that I really like, but FilmPack was the one that I chose for this one, especially because the look of the footage is much more filmaic. It has the look of like a high-level film production, especially with stock clips. Sometimes the lighting is a little too harsh. Everything is way in focus, and it just doesn't give us that feel of a film. And I really wanted this to feel like a film, and so I strategically made those processes to make it feel how I wanted it to feel. The rest of the video goes into detail about what the offer is. It starts to show people, and especially people with high emotion, whether that's like concentration, whether that's hugs, whether that's tears, whether that's jumping up and down, throwing their hands up, cheering, clapping. I wanted to show a lot of emotion in the rest of the video. And then at the end of the video, visually it says the end of an era. And I really wanted to show kind of a behind the scenes clip of what the end of that era looks like. So I'm gonna play the full video for you now. What could you do in a year? Climb Mount Everest? Use a headrest?
Hello, ladies and gentlemen, this is your captain speaking.
Press some weight? Get a date. Perfect your look? Learn to cook. Start a business? Combat stiffness. Make some money. Become funny. What could you do in 1 year if it was your last best year? Stop over drinking, wishful thinking, and shrinking? Start inking, linking, and rethinking. Start doing, pursuing, renewing, and accruing. What if you could make this year one to remember? One you look back on as the year it all started, the year you stopped making plans and started achieving them. Introducing the last best year of Get Coached in Self-Coaching Scholars. Brooke Castillo with the Life Coach School will help you accrue, pursue, and do. This year is going to be different. The last best year of Get Coached in Self-Coaching Scholars. Now that you've kind of seen that full video, think about the process that I went through and think about your videos. You know, it doesn't have to be an intricate, detailed video like this, but this was just about a 1-minute video. And I took a lot of time and a lot of process to think through the emotions that I wanted people to feel. You can do the same thing with your podcasts, with your videos, with your writing. What do you want to feel? What do you want the audience to feel? What are the emotions that you want to evoke? Video is really powerful this way, but other realms like writing, like just voiceover podcast, all of those realms, they carry emotion. And emotion is one of those elements that make people engage and make people want to go to the next level and do something. So I hope this has been helpful to kind of walk through this process of what I was thinking when I developed this video. And think about some of your videos. How could you go through a process like this? How could you evoke some emotions? What are some words that you could say or could do with your videos so that it evokes the emotion that your clients really want to feel? If you want to work with me further, you can join me inside my program, Lights, Camera, Action, where we turn on all the lights in your brain, focus the camera of your mind, and take action to get you to where you want to be with video.